You can add an agenda item a couple of different ways, either by reaching out to one of the amazing leaders that I'm going to introduce momentarily, or by emailing Janelle in the president's office, and we would be glad to add an agenda item for discussion, review, approval. With that said, we will get into the roll call. Tilly is the Vice President of Instruction.
Present.
Robbie Shayer, Institutional Technology.
Present.
Caesar, Information Officer. Here. Jay, Supervisory Representative. Here. Sanad, President of Chairs Cabinet.
Present.
Susan, Dean of Institutional Effectiveness.
Present.
Masa.
He's running late.
is running late. Diego, the reason why we're all here. I didn't see you come in. Diego, welcome. Nice to see you again. Had a great presentation to the student government yesterday. Good chat with you all. Roxanne is filling in for John Parker.
Present. Sorry.
Oh, Roxanne, you're a veteran. Good to see you, Roxanne. Thanks for helping. Marciano, Vice President of Student Services.
Present.
Sean, President Classified Senate.
Present.
And Maria Jose, let me know that she could not be here today. That again are the leaders of our college constituency groups. If someone would like to make a motion for approval of the meeting notes from October 25th, they should have been in your packet. We will entertain a motion.
This is Sean. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
Ricky, this is Robbie.
Great, thank you, Robbie. I was just reminded of how we would do this on Zoom, right? It still allows people on YouTube to know who's doing it. Thank you all. First by Sean, second by Robbie. Any further discussion of the meeting notes? So changes, modifications? Want to publicly thank Janelle for making it possible to have the meeting notes. Hearing none. Yes.
I do. If the list of members is intended to reflect who attended, I was not present that day because I was on an airplane.
Duly noted. Does that mean you would also like to abstain from?
Yes.
this? I think someone is trying to come in. Welcome. So we have Susan Murray abstaining. All in favor of approving the meeting notes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? Anyone else would like to abstain? Hearing none, motion carries. I would like to acknowledge that it is Native American History Month, and certainly we appreciate all the efforts that went into our land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that San Diego City College sits on the land of the Kumeyaay Nation, and we are making every effort to ensure that their tradition is honored here on our campus with our land acknowledgement. I want to thank Caesar and the team. This may go down. I'm always impressed with the designs, but this may go down as one of the best backdrops I've ever seen. And I've seen some nice ones since I've been here. But it is wonderful to see the art from a member of the Kumeyaay Nation who's also an alum of San Diego City College. And so would encourage everyone to use the virtual backdrop when and where you can. While I'm speaking of encouraging people to use things, we had a very moving list of workshops, discussions, focus groups for our LGBTQ plus community. And I sent out a message the other day encouraging those who are so inclined to use the pronouns in their emails. We will be having an update on those efforts in the coming College Council meetings. I want to publicly thank Don, Ashley, and others who actively participated in that group. First up, I believe, Tilly, is this an information item? And there have been some very lively discussions about computers on campus. I want to thank Robbie for providing us an update. And I had a chance to meet with the student government yesterday. And one of my questions to them was, do you know where to go to if you needed to use a computer? Diego, what was the answer to that question? library. But the fact of the matter is that we have a number of computer labs on campus, both those that are reserved for instructional programs and, interesting enough, those that are available for students. And we are working through that process to ensure that all of those computers are available, and when they're not available for use for whatever reason, that we are keeping track of that. And so today we're going to hear about one of the computer labs on campus that I understand is a place that a lot of people love using for instructional reasons. And so I want to welcome Paul and turn it over to Tilly to provide an update on the test proctoring center.
So thank you, Ricky, and thank you, everyone. And thank you, Paul, for coming. Paul and a team of individuals, DSPS, Nick Slinglin, quite a few others, have been trying to come to College Council, believe it or not, for about 9 months. It just hasn't worked out at the right time. We've been bumped a few times, but this worked out perfect. And this was a solution back to May of 2020 when Proctorio came out. And you remember when the chancellor's office sent it out, people started using things in different ways and started discovering, oh, do we really want to do that to students, et cetera. So we had at this campus decided that we would no longer use Proctorio. It was a software that used pictures and stuff with students and didn't realize what it was doing. So a team of individuals, Paul is one of them, came together to say, how can we potentially have a proctoring center? And so he's worked with the BT area and really with the team at that area as well. That they use the space BT 203. I'll let Paul jump into that as an update of where we are. But we've been doing using it as a test proctoring center for 2 years now, almost a year and a half, right? And so I'll let you take it away and just also talk about that, and that way we'll see what kind of questions come up.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Paul Young. I am a faculty in the math department. I'm here today as one of the coordinators for the Test Proctoring Center. I passed around a couple of pages of slides I've prepared for today. I apologize that I didn't bring enough. I only printed 10. I thought there were going to be 20 like that. So like what Tilly said, the Test Proctoring Center is located at BT 203, and we have a mission statement. So the mission statement is to create an inclusive testing environment that incorporates equity-minded and universal design in the physical space to support student learning and achievement and to promote low stress and flexible testing experience for students while maintaining academic integrity and exam validity. So a little bit of background in terms of where this pilot came from. So in the summer of 2021, the DSPS had approached the math department with this idea to collaborate and to design a test proctoring center that would serve ideally everyone, DSPS students for all DSPS accommodations, and any student that requires an in-person exam. Like what Tilly said at the time, this was the district coming off of the usage of Proctorio, which had a lot of questions from social justice standpoint and from a digital ownership standpoint of digital property sort of a standpoint. And so at that point, we were still very, very heavy on distance education. And so most faculty went to Zoom proctoring, and we soon, very quickly learned that Zoom was never designed for proctoring. And so there were all sorts of questions that lingered with Zoom proctoring, lingered from Proctorio. I mean, the same questions came up. And so the idea was, well, nothing beats examination, nothing beats in-person testing. And to basically do away with all of those questions about privacy and who owns the footage and who's recording that sort of thing. So in summer of 21, DSPS under Bree Kennedy approached the math department and said, we would like to do this collaboration. And we started the pilot for the fall of 21, requested some for funding, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And we've been basically operating since. Now, our services currently, we offer DSPS testing to almost all DSPS students. I want to say 99% of DSPS exams are in the test proctoring center. We handle on-campus proctoring for any students that need a computer-based exam. It is a large space with 50 plus computers. So we also handle paper exams, makeup exams as people need as needed. It is a distraction-reduced environment. We offer headphones, earplugs. Basically, it is intended to be a low-stress, quiet, calm environment where when the student is taking their exam, their professor is not necessarily staring at them. And one last thing is one of the very nice things that we have offered is flexible scheduling. So the model is that a professor can request their class to take the exam, and instead of having everyone take the exam, let's say on a Thursday at 2 o'clock as when class is, they would open it up and say, you can take your exam Wednesday through Saturday during any 2-hour time block when the test proctoring center is open, thereby allowing flexibility for students to decide when they want to take their exam. Some people test better in the mornings. Some people test better after they've had lunch. So that in itself has been a success in terms of the students being able to have a little bit of control over their exams. Our hours of operation was, sorry,
Can you go back
Janelle.
again?
Hours of operations are listed here. It's Tuesday through Saturday. We do have Saturday hours. Saturdays are very popular. Fridays and Saturdays are very popular. And the website is listed there for the test proctoring center, the email address, and also a phone number that receives texts as well. Okay. So who's involved? There's 2 departments. The SPS is involved and the math department's involved. And so I am one half of the coordination for the test proctoring center, and the other half being Jamila DeFarley from the SPS. And under Jamila, there's Darwin Brown, Ariana, Cecilia Deca from the SPS, and then from my area, there's faculty Drajan and Eddie. And then we also recruited a math center tutor, Naomi, to help staff us this semester. A little bit about the timeline. So we started our pilot in fall 21. We offered a service to 13 sections. In spring 22, we went and expanded our operations to full operations, serving 29 sections. So the sections that you see there are primarily STEM-based sections. So you see a lot of math, a lot of biology. This past summer, we offered services to 13 sections, 2 of them being in person and 11 of them being DE classes. And this current semester, we are really expanding and we are serving 39 sections. As you can see, most of them are math sections. And so come finals week, which is in a few weeks, we're anticipating that we're going to be serving about 600 plus students from a window of Tuesday through Saturday. So it will be fun. It will be interesting to figure out how to work that, but we got it. Okay, a little bit about the funding. So from the math department's end, we've requested her funds 3 times. First 2, 22,000 in September of 21, 9,000 this past April, and then her 3 most recently to before the start of this, at the start of this semester, to try to operate from this semester through summer of 23. I apologize, I should say summer of 23 at the very end. And then from DSPS's area, they receive funding from the nursing CTE funds of $36,000, and then they're just pulling from the general DSPS budget and having Darwin help us run this pilot at 30%, taking 30% of its time with us. So this is the amount of money that we've used, and we will project to use in these 2 years for this pilot. And then the operating costs in general, this is just a very general view of it, is that our current model is that we're open 32 hours a week. We're staffing the test practice center with 2 individuals at each, and there at any time there's project assistants, there's student services assistants, there's a tutor in there, or there could be not that. And so you can see the estimated cost that we are basically spending right now is about $1,500 a week. Per semester is almost $20,000, and for the year anticipated about 48, closer to $50,000 a year. So this is how much we've been spending in terms to operate the test tracking center without the coordination piece. From a data standpoint, it's hard to capture data when it comes to a service that such as our center. And you can imagine that the people that want to answer our surveys are people that don't really want to think about their exam. But given that, we did put out a survey and received some feedback. 76% agreed or strongly disagreed that they are strongly agreed that they like the flexibility of being able to take their exam within a window of time as opposed to a well-defined set time. We use this online platform called JotForms, and 77% said that it was really easy to use. And 77% of the respondents, of the 53 that replied to me, said that the test proctoring center was a distraction-reduced testing environment. It was lower stress, I suppose, to take their exam in the TPC. And then finally, long-term goals is post-pandemic, we know that online courses are not going away, or online offerings. My last view of Tableau was that we're projected next semester to offer about 50% of our offerings, either online or partially online. And so in the math department, all of our offerings next semester is going to be partially online, requiring any DE course is going to be partially online, requiring in-person exams. And so the need for a test proctoring center is not going to go away. If anything, it's going to increase. And so the long-term goal, ideally, would be to institutionalize the service, to hire a test proctoring coordinator. I think, in my view, the correct way to run it is to hire 2 ILTs to staff the test proctoring center and have the center be a part of the institution. Currently, we are borrowing space from the BT 203. CBT program has been very gracious to share their space with us. We're using it as the test proctoring center, but CPT students are also able to go in while we're open to just use their labs. Use the lab for their courses. And then finally, if we become a thing on campus, and if we're here to stay, then the next thing we would do is to consider joining the CBC OEI online proctoring network to become a member of Proctoring College. And if that is to happen, then ideally a student taking one of our courses, one of our DE courses could, let's say they live far away like Sacramento or somewhere not within our service region, they can take our class and they can take their in-person exam at another member of the college's proctoring center. And then vice versa, anybody who is taking a class there but live here would then have the ability to come stay. So that's just a few things I want to share with everybody of the TPC, what we've been up to the last 2 years.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Billy, anything you want to add to the discussion?
Well, I just want to say that I love that the collaboration came together last year. It really took some time, but people were struggling in different areas during 2020, took us a while. We were grateful that we had some turf dollars, but we also did some combination too with some of the summer math jams too, in combination, because they also did some assessments there. So we used the center a little bit more than what it might seem here as well. I mean, they were so flexible. All the individuals that have worked there, they've tried different things, and a big shout out to Jay and his team too, to try to figure out a solution how to get people in the space when the building was closed. Right, so we found a way to get students in there and a way to get them out without them roaming everywhere during that time. So I just think that they've done a great collaboration, some work, and Marciano, you've been part of that too, so I didn't know if you wanted to add.
Yeah, no, the only thing I would add is, GSPS has absolutely benefited from being able to partner with math on this. Their students, the feedback has been incredibly positive. In particular, the Saturday and Friday hours, as I mentioned, have been really high demand from our DSPS students to be able to get in there and make it.
And I'm impressed, so thank you, and I heard you loud and clear in terms of institutionalizing this. And as far as I'm concerned, it is institutionalized because it's occurring. But I get the point that you were making. It would encourage you all to work through the college's processes for program review and identifying the need for staffing. One of the other things is someone who did work in this area early in my career, once we join some of these networks, then we could also possibly generate revenue from proctoring for people who need to take exams for various reasons that we would be listed as a place that they can come and take said exam. Do you want to maybe talk about that, or I didn't hear that?
There are networks. There are networks. The first network that I can think of is the NTCA, National Testing College Association. It is another network of that is made up of 2-year and 4-year institutions, and that network I think is across the country. And so to join that network, it would basically function more or less as like the OEI network, although many of the test proctoring centers that I visit their websites, they do charge a fee for their testing services. The nearest one that I can think of is actually San Diego State, who is a part of that network. So that is definitely an option for us to look into.
Any other questions?
So I do have one more question. Just so if I'm a faculty member out there listening in and paying attention out there and saying, maybe I want to use the testing proctoring center. They just contact you on that slide that said contact us?
They can contact me directly. They can contact, they can email the Gmail account. They can go to the website. We have a page on our website.
And do I have to be present at all? Being that I'm the teacher, do I have to go and be in the center at all?
Yes and no.
That's an it depends answer.
On an everyday, so on an everyday sort of, from an everyday standpoint, the answer is no. But like what I shared earlier, we are looking at serving more than 600 students within a window of 4 days during finals week. And so prior to a faculty participating and having their class take their exams in the test proctoring center, I kind of talked to the faculty and asked, just give them a heads up, like, we may need you for finals week.
Okay,
That you may have
Fair
to donate like a 2-hour block or a 3-hour block to help us out because of just the volume of
Numbers, yeah.
students are going through. But on a week by week, the answer is no.
I think, Paul, if I could, and what I believe that Tilly is getting at is that we had a meeting where a particular faculty member, as I'm learning, many love the BT computer lab and how it's laid out, and they will use some of those computers or an area of the BT for their class. And as I'm learning, and as Robbie and Peter are working on an effective communication to the campus on which computer labs are open, which computer labs can be reserved, and then how you go about reserving it. Maybe you can talk to us about that piece, if that's to some degree or another what Tilly was.
And I will say, yes, to a little bit on that, the times that they have listed there, I mean, that's busy, right? But, and I think you alluded to it somewhere, you said that you work with the faculty in that area, they come in and they use the spaces as needed, their students do
For their exams.
for their exams, et cetera. And if I'm not mistaken, even some of the times and stuff are designed in collaboration with the school to say, if they needed the room at certain dates and times, then we'll flex the proctoring center around some of the classes.
Well, we are, I can't really speak on BT's.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're actually borrowing that space.
Yes.
And so I think, I don't think I'm in the
Yeah.
position to really.
No,
answer
I know,
on
we're gonna actually, then I
yeah.
guess I'll take it is that we're
Yeah.
gonna be meeting soon to collaborate to make sure, because this has been in a pilot, and because we've been off campus for that majority of the time, it didn't really make a difference, but as we're seeing, we're coming back, and how do we live together in those spaces?
Well, and yeah, and how do we effectively communicate what
Yes.
spaces are available to people who may not know? We've hired a number of faculty members, we're hiring, across the campus. There certainly are new deans in just about every school on the campus, new people. And so wanting to remind people of what is available, what kind of computers are available. So if you wouldn't mind, because we also think in the terms of threes, that someone needs to receive something 3 times before they really understand it. So if you wouldn't mind sending your PowerPoint to the campus and making it available to folks who may not even be aware. Maybe this is the first time hearing that we're having this proctoring center. I think for those of us that were involved with the request and the pilot, we know about it, but if you're someone who's been teaching remotely and now you're coming back to in person, you may not be privy to this information. So if you wouldn't mind sharing it,
Absolutely.
then that'll be followed up by what Robbie is working on, which is a comprehensive kind of flyer and process for faculty members and students. One that talks to faculty members about what computer labs are open, how many computers are operational, and how one might use those computer labs. And then another to students, so that students who need access to computers. And I think we should, Caesar, send this proctoring, some form of it to students. Because if I'm not a DSPS student, if I understand it, maybe I don't even know this is available. So I'm always wondering about that, right? How are we communicating
Good point.
to people about things that are available to them? Anything else? That's it. Again, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Speaking of computers and cybersecurity, this is like computer day. It didn't even dawn on me that we're gonna have a lot of conversations today about computers and cybersecurity. I want to just formally welcome Peter, the Director of Technology for our district. Good to see you. We had a great conversation a little over a week ago about efforts to update labs and purchase computers and things of that nature. I know that that's not necessarily the discussion you're here for today, but it's equally important to talk about the additional security measures that are going into effect for logging in. And so I will first, should I turn it over, I think Robbie and Peter, or is it primarily Peter?
I'm here to support him.
Rock, paper, scissors. Robbie?
Actually, thank you, Peter, but actually I'm here as Vanna White, because Peter actually showed me how this process works. Many of you know that we are taking more serious measures to make sure we protect the network and all of us as we work on it. One of the things that's absolutely essential is that we implement multi-factor authentication, which might sound daunting to some at first. It's basically a 2-step verification method. And in this case, for for our district, including San Diego City College, it's really just identifying one other verification step that you can use when you're using Microsoft 365 Cloud. So it's not everything else, it's not everything on your computer on the sun, it's just when you log into Microsoft 365 for the first time. It's going to ask you, you have your login credentials. You log in, and then you'll be prompted to acknowledge what type of verification measure for the second step that you would like. And that verification measure, most parties might pick just to send me a text or call my mobile. Rather simple. The second one would be using what is called a token. Peter has an example there. I'll try to get one from him. He's kind of tight with it. So the token basically is a randomizer. Instead of using, if you don't want your mobile phone in play, or for some reason, if you don't have one and you just need to be able to verify, it's actually another way you can carry that around with you. And that actually gives you a randomized number that will be your verification code that you now plug back into the computer you're trying to log into. And it's actually it works. When I mentioned the Vanna White analogy, it's only because Peter kept saying, well, Rob, just why don't you do one yourself? And he doesn't realize, that I'm actually a breadcrumb guy. Like I would not necessarily just start doing something without knowing I can find my way home again. But by a leap of faith, I went ahead and just did it myself. And it was incredibly simple. And most of us have gone through two-step verification, whether you're using a banking account, whether you're using even Google, for example, now has instituted two-step verification. This one I should mention is not brutal. It's actually kind of kind. If all goes well, whether you use your mobile phone to verify, or you use this token, then you're good to go for probably another 30 days until we'll prompt you again to do that. But imagine what that does from a security standpoint. It means that really the only people who should be logging in actually have been verified within 30 days and are going to be re-verified again. This should not be confused with your password or anything along those lines. This is simply a two-step verification measure. And thanks to Peter, and thank you for coming through. We've also been afforded a little bit more time. This is an urgent matter that I think we have 2 of our 4 campuses, 4 colleges, or the 2 I think have already gone through. 3. Okay, so I think it's us in district that are still left on the docket to go through this MFA approach. And we've been pushed back, thankfully, to the 16th so that we can get the word out to more people for them to get acclimated to how easy this is. It's very easy. There are videos and there's like a PowerPoint that we can share with parties to make this super easy. But this is the part that I would not have on a video, which is with any type of rollout, there'll be someone who would not want to use a personal device or have some objection. This is a workaround. Downside, eventually someone might lose this, but also someone asked a question earlier, what if this runs out of power? Well, you take it apart, you put it out. But it's a token. There was a question also presented a little bit earlier about whether or not students now, of course, are using our accounts. And there was a concern of how can students get used to this? The truth be told is that student accounts opened up with MFA. They were introduced and inaugurated into this environment, having to do two-step verification. And my understanding is that so far, very few difficulties with parties. The last part would be if someone does run into a problem, how do they find it? And we have 2 different levels. One is for employees and one is for students. But basically, they all basically reach the help desk. And so, calling our employees basically that you have to call because you can't log on. You call the 7000 number, and they can also help walk you through this to some. Students have a different route, but it actually also goes back to the same. I'm trying to hold on to this. He's looking at me like, give me my token.
Well, you can, I think they have.
Oh, okay. But the MFA is really, in this case, it's a rather gentle, simple adjustment that they should not have much difficulty with. The whole process takes probably a month to do so. Like any two-step verification, whatever route you choose, if it's your mobile phone, you just have to have it. With speed, you just have it turned on and standing by ready. You'll get a text message, or you can ask for it to call you. And text message is far more reliable if you, if you're not transposing numbers or you thought it said something else, but we have a garbled connection. It's really that simple, and it is an enormous change for us in terms of our security.
Did you say where you got this?
The tokens, you would have to plead to get them from.
We'll provide the tokens, and it's really about building the digital equity for any individual, faculty, staff, or students that may not have a phone or don't, choose not to use the phone. So we got just a limited number, but we are ready to order more. Their cost is about $15, and we have sold that cost as an extra point. Now this token is connected directly to my account. So this is why I'm looking at it very carefully. So, but it's associated with my account. Every time I log in, it's randomized numbers, and it's really part of that level of security for both insurance, breach insurance that we have to cover, and for the initiative coming up from the state of California for security and privacy reasons. MFA is one of those. Again, the two factors really adds into a level of security for us and moving us a little safer than what we were before. With other things, I looked at your prior agenda too, board policy 3720. So this sort of attaches to that as well because it's a security piece to that board policy and administrative policy. So I'm happy to see that it was discussed. Glad to have that approved by December, I believe. But yeah, the MFA itself, Robbie and Tenny were able to set this up yesterday, and I'm happy to put the rest of you in that group if you like, just experiment and go through the deal of setting this environment up for you. Objectively, on a bigger picture, multi-factor authentication ties back into something called Active Directory. Active Directory is how we manage all of our accounts for employees. So when you got hired, went through the HR process, we take your information off of the PeopleSoft HR system, we bridge that into Active Directory, and we will then be able to, grant your email address, and now we have O365, which went live at August 12th, and Robbie mentioned. From the day we launched to email, we went MFA for students. I can count on one hand how many times we got received calls from our students for support on this. We had one student up in Oakland, which was the most, distant DE students. I believe that person, that individual was at Mesa College taking a DE class. So and we have our coverage, our office hours are from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. Right now, I think I have to cut back because there are no requests, new requests come in the late evening time. So again, it's an adjustment of that coverage. So getting back to the Active Directory aspect of this. So you all use PeopleSoft, love it or hate it. Sorry, don't beat me up on that. So PeopleSoft, another project that we're working on starting in the spring, we're looking to move PeopleSoft into the cloud. And that lands into security, business continuity, disaster recovery, and enhancement of new services that we'll be able to bridge in certain applications and services. So for instance, DSPS, et cetera. These student services driven applications that can connect directly to PeopleSoft or directly to 65. Something called single sign-on gives us a lot more breadth, efficiency, lowering barriers of access to these services, and accountability. So data, you mentioned about data from an earlier aspect. If you need to collect data on usage stats, those are some of the opportunities that we'll be able to expand. We're looking to do this project in a 6-month window, starting in January of 2023, with implementation by summer of 2023. Reason why I share this with you, PeopleSoft is now going to use something called the IDP or Identity Provider, which is our Active Directory in the cloud. And that's going to require MFA. So single credential to access all our applications, employees as well as our students. So it's enhancing the level of services, modernizing the services that we are providing, and making sure that we have a platform for us to build for what's going to happen in 2024, 2025, what new technologies are going to come. This college is going to see a massive expanse in Wi-Fi coverage. So what potential opportunities there are going to be lent for those additional services. So it starts with a very secure and robust platform, and then build upon that for the services that we are rendering to all our stakeholders that we're providing services to.
Well, thank you. Any questions for Robbie or Peter?
One quick question. So if I heard you correctly, once we log in, when the single sign-on comes, once you log in, and this is just, I'll just do it the way that hits me home, is in Zoom, sometimes I may have to log into Zoom right now 3 times a day or a couple of times, depending what's going on, right? So single sign-on, once I get in to the verify, I would get into Zoom right away. I wouldn't have to re-log in.
Correct. That's correct. Passes the credit.
That's what I thought I heard you say. So.
Just for the campus, is there a date when you're gonna send out a deal?
For the MFA,
Everything.
Just anything that we just talked about.
as soon as possible. The MFA actually is going to kick over for this college on the 16th, which means at that point in time, you'll be prompted to use a 2-step verification. Between now and the 16th, probably within the next 2 days, we'll start sending out PowerPoint and an easy to follow video online. And most parties won't even need it.
And I specifically asked and would like to see us follow through on having either that day or maybe that day and the next day, a lab where somebody can come and drop in and get assistance. I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Because we're all at various levels of comfort with technology. And I can tell you, there's nothing that drives me more crazy than when I need to fix something on my computer and I have to call and somebody's not looking at the same thing that I'm looking at. Now, certainly you can prompt somebody to come into your unit so that they are seen. But this is one of the reasons why we kind of prolonged the rolling this out. Just publicly thank Peter, because I have been fairly vocal about how this gets rolled out, because not every one of us are looking at every email. I mean, I can tell you just in the time I've been in meetings all day today, I'm working on 300 emails today. So it can be very easily missed by someone. And so this is one effort. So anyone watching via YouTube or everyone here that represents a constituency group, I hope that you will take this back to your respective constituency groups and share that this is coming, because there's also some lessons learned that I hope we would share with folks from other campuses, from the other 3 campuses rolling this out. Like if you use the phone in your office and you're at home, it's going to call your office, you know. But at the core of this, and I agree, Robbie, like every time I log into a credit card company or into my bank, they're going to send me a text or they're going to send me an email, which is very similar to what we're talking about. So we hope that people who do those kind of transactions on a regular basis will probably be able to go through this with no problem. But for those who may not do that kind of banking or online banking, which there are people who don't have comfort with that, then they need to be able to sit down with someone and just, you know, have that extra help, that City College love to help you through something that is new. We've got a number of other things on the agenda. Any other questions or comments for Peter or Robbie or from Peter? Hearing none, change is upon us. This is actually something that probably should have been put in place I will put it in perspective, when I started working at UC Davis in admissions, many, over 20 years ago, I had a token. And every time I logged into UC Davis's portal, I had to use a token in order to log in, and that was the additional security. So this is necessary. Now, Peter, if you can figure out how to stop us getting these phishing scams, then we,
Yeah.
we really.
Is that a
we
problem?
secure.
Are you having it?
It hasn't been as much since we moved to the new Microsoft, but I can tell you in my time here, there are more Ricky Shabazz trying to get people to send $20 or buy some gift cards than anywhere else I've ever.
Well, that wasn't my interview question, Mark. Okay, so it was a great example of trying to fix a problem that we've had. So, okay,
So it's a different type of phishing than our president.
Yes. I don't like those kind of- Thank you
Thank you,
again. Nice to
Mark.
meet you. I'm going to make an appeal to move, since Susan has 2 items, to have Susan go back to move item 9 up to item 7, so that you can go back to back. And I know that you need at least 30 minutes or so, 20 to 30 minutes on the ICER update. And so I'll see what is your pleasure. Do you want to do 6 and then the ICER, or do you want to do the ICER and then the ACCJC?
Item 6 will just take a couple
Okay.
minutes, so I can go ahead and do that, and then Marco can start getting set up for the next phase, because that item is a joint effort. So ACCJC substantive change. As you have heard, we have our first baccalaureate degree in process for our cyber defense and analysis program. And one of the required steps is to submit that to ACCJC for review. There are 2 components to that. One is that ACCJC review adds a degree or certificate program to our roster of programs. That is one of the qualifying steps to have that program approved for any federal financial aid, which includes Pell Grants and federally subsidized loans. So that's an important thing to go through that process. With this degree being our first bachelor's degree, that puts the college on a different status, both with ACCJC and the U.S. Department of Education. Essentially, with approval of this program, we will become a 4-year institution.
Can you say that one more time, just for the group, just because they didn't understand the magnitude of that? Say that one more time.
So with approval of this program, San Diego State College will become considered a 4-year institution. So ACCJC has developed requirements, because there are other colleges in California and in ACCJ's region that have gone before us. So we have to submit what is called a substantive change proposal. If we are adding a new certificate or expanding a degree program at the associate degree level or closely related to a field that we already offer, we submit a notification to ACCJC. They write back usually almost immediately and say that they don't consider it a substantive change, and they forward it on to the Department of Ed to be included in our approved list for financial aid. But certain kinds of changes are considered a substantive change, and one of them is moving to a new level of degree. So we have submitted the proposal for City College's cyber defense and analysis. It is considered by a subcommittee of the commission. Normally, the commission meets twice a year. They act on the official accreditation reports. But substantive changes are referred specifically to a subcommittee. So ours will be heard at the meeting on November 28th. The subcommittee makes the final decision. So they will inform us immediately after their meeting what the result is. And then ACCJC also requires a campus visit, because basically we have to show how the baccalaureate program can meet all 4 of the standards. So then after approval on November 28th. Then we will work out with ACCJC. We may roll this into our anticipated comprehensive review in spring of 2024, which is what the ICER is all about, our institutional self-evaluation report. Because we don't intend to start enrolling students in the cyber defense program until the fall of 2024. But we can be flexible on the timing if it makes more sense to do that coordinated with the other visit, we can do that, or we can do it earlier if we need to. So those are the two remaining steps with ACCJC to get the program to where we can actually enroll students.
Questions? I want to publicly thank Susan and everyone working on this, David, and I'm going to ask Janelli to share the document that Caesar, thank you, Caesar, put together. You all received this in an email. I mentioned in a video, hopefully you all had a chance to watch it, that Caesar and I will be flying up to Sacramento on Monday for a separate process, but I wanted to use this time to share a document that we put together. Caesar will be sending this out most likely on Thursday and then again on Monday, inviting folks to join us at the Board of Governors meeting where we're going to be presenting to the Board of Governors on the importance of this bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. The gist of it is this: the way the legislation is written, we have met all of the requirements. Thank you, David. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tilly. I don't know why I said Tina. Tilly. Need some water. Thank you, Tilly. And then thank you to everyone involved. I'm sure I'm missing someone, Shayna, and everyone, all the faculty at Cyber. There have been nearly 10 months of questions and answers and meetings that culminate in this presentation that I will make to the Board of Governors on behalf of our college. We will be working with David and the students who come in to public comments. But it is important to share that our program does not duplicate anything found at the CSU. There are no bachelor's degrees in cybersecurity. And so these efforts are coinciding with the ACCJC approval process. And so we will send this document out and share this information. Thank you, David, for helping to put that together, as well as Caesar. And please get this out to your respective communities. Caesar and I this evening will be working on an op-ed that hopefully will appear in the UT either later this week or early in the beginning of next week. Fortunately, there's this little thing called an election in a $2 billion lottery winning that's probably going to take priority over this op-ed that they're working on. And I just wanted to add any questions either for Susan or in that document that was shared, we'll go out to the entire campus on Thursday and again on Monday. Moving forward, we have our process for accreditation in our ICER. And good to see you, Marco. Appreciate everything you do for the college.
All right. So I have a presentation that I'm going to go through that Susan and I worked on, and I'm going to go through this quickly. I'm going to try to do it in 15 minutes. I did it yesterday in that time for Academic Senate.
So is that long distance? Is that short distance? More like a short dash?
It's like middle distance.
Okay.
Right in the middle, yeah. So, but what this is going to do is we're coming here with our second draft of the report. The first draft was really gathering evidence that we shared last semester. The second one is is written content now. And so what I'll do is go to the next slide. We're going to give an ICER development update. So just an update about where we are right now with the content and the written portion. Then also go over the draft review process. So the one that Susan and I developed for the signatory groups, College Council, Academic Senate, Classified Senate, and then also the Associated Student Governments and the general student body as a whole. And then also explain how the signatory groups, how we would like them to actively participate in the development of the report based on what is already written. So just to give a little progress report on where we are, the main portion that has been written so far, it revolves around the 4 standards. And you'll see the first row is indicating the pages written right now. So that's just all the content that's been written page-wise from the writing teams thus far. And then the guide that we get from the ACCJC gives us a suggested length for each of them, because this is not supposed to be, you throw everything in the kitchen sink in the report and hope that everything goes great. They give us some guidelines about how long it should be. Really, that just means we need to be concise with the information that we're putting in there and be selective to find the best examples. So you can see we've already written 184 pages thus far, and that's without the evidence list. We don't count that. So 184 so far. Suggested length for this section is 140. So we have way more content than we need, which is always a good thing because we can pare that down. At the bottom, you can see the percent completed. So I just wrote down and put a percentage for how many of the standards have a draft written for it. So you can see overall, we have 66% of it has been written. You know, a lot of the reason is that that's familiar to us is that time is very valuable. And so sometimes we don't always have enough time to complete everything. However, our goal was 80%, and that was really just a number I chose that I thought would get us along the way. We're at 66%, but some of the gaps that you see there for standard 2 and 3 in particular, we have found more faculty members to assist us in writing and assigning to those standards. And so I expect that either by the end of the semester and early next semester, we'll have that written content already. So they're already nearly on board and ready to go. This is the timeline that Susan and I established with the accreditation committee in order to complete the report in a timely manner and make it the best version that we can submit. So fall 22, we're right now at the end. We're now sharing the draft with the constituency groups, signatory groups, and we want to receive feedback on what's been written. And then looking ahead, most importantly, to spring of 23, we really have until about the end of March or thereabouts to finish and finalize our content for the report. That's the bulk, the standards 1 through 4, because it has to go through the district approval process and then the board has to approve it, and that takes time. And so we really have the middle of next semester. So we're going to be coming in hot at the beginning of next semester to complete the report so that it can come to the signatory groups and we can have eyeballs on it again, and so that it can get approved. And so that's just to give everybody an idea, and the writing teams know this too, and so that things will start moving very quickly. So we're kind of in the home stretch now, and what we do now in terms of collecting response and feedback back to the writing teams will be critical in helping us complete a really good and comprehensive and strong report. This is just the review schedule that we're doing right now. We met with Academic Senate yesterday, and we gave them just the preview. So whatever you're seeing now, that's what they got. And we're actually doing the bulk of their review at their next meeting. But you can see everybody that we're meeting with, the associate student government and students in general. We're still creating the survey that we want to be able to give to them. And what we've done is highlighted the standards that we know students would be able to respond to. So it touches on the areas of the campus that students interact with on a daily basis, and so that they'd be able to give us feedback regarding that. So we're still working that out. We're nearly finished. All right, so just really quickly, the purpose of the report, the institutional self-evaluation report, is twofold. One, the college can conduct a comprehensive and meaningful analysis of really the work that it does serving its students according to its mission. You wanted to boil it down to one sentence. That's what the report is for. The second part is that it's a tool used by our accrediting commission, the ACCJC, to determine our ongoing accreditation status. So we're submitting this, and they're going to have a peer review team look at it. They're trained to look at it, and they're going to give us feedback. Some things that we do really well, other questions they want to know a little bit more about, but it's really a process that's going to help us become a better institution. And so what we put into the report is going to help them give us the best feedback and accommodations back. Your role and the role of the signatory groups is we really want the individuals here to read and engage with the draft that's been written and developed by the writing team so that we can get some substantive feedback to refine the report. And the second part really is it helps strengthen it because it expands the number of people who read, understand, and contribute to it, which is in the spirit of how the ACCJC has explained to us they would like the process to go. And really, it does help when the peer review team does come and they would like to speak with people. The more people that have engaged with some aspect of the report, like we're going to ask this group to do today, just read a few standards, answer a few questions. That helps when they come because we'll have a better idea about what accreditation is. And it's not a scary process. I didn't know that much about it prior to taking the role, but I read the manual and figured out it's pretty straightforward. We have standards. They give us instructions on how we can evaluate ourselves. And really, it's the time and effort we put into it. We can produce a self-analysis that's meaningful to submit, and that's it. I mean, that's really all. They want to see the things that we do here. How do we find out if we're doing a good job, an okay job, things we want to improve on? That's really what the report is. And so it's not a scary process. It just takes time to be able to do. So some of the materials that we have for you, access to the internet is important because I set up a Google site that has all the materials that you would need to access to read and provide a response. And Janelle has that, and she'll be able to share it with you. There'll be a link to the guide that the ACCJC provides us because there's a few pages, I think about 10, that I do ask us to read because it gives us background on what we're looking at. So it's not like we don't understand what it is we're approaching. So that's the reading section, just preparing there. These are the instructions that we would like each of the members here to answer as they read the standards that they've been assigned. And I've pre-assigned the standard. It's not really important which ones that you got because you'll be able to answer the questions regardless of the area of the campus it's talking about. But we really want to know, is the narrative provided accurate? That's one of the things we want to know is the writing team members don't know everything about what's happening on campus. They have to find evidence, and if they miss something, we'd like to know to be able to include it. Does it align with review criteria in the guide? So the guide is very helpful and it has review criteria that the peer reviewers use to evaluate our report, and you can read what's written and the review criteria to help you connect. Is that covered in that section? Does it include appropriate evidence? Maybe we're missing something, or the evidence chosen is somehow not included or tied into the written portion. That can happen. We'd like to know that too. Do we call out strengths and areas for improvement? That's a really critical piece that we'd like to know. So based on what's written, do we call out areas that we'd like to improve on, whether they're small adjustments or they're bigger ones that might take a little bit longer for us to accomplish? Those types of things need to make it into the report. And then the last one is would this make sense to an external reader? Really, that just means this is not an academic paper. It needs to be straightforward and clear and concise because it will be disseminated to the general public and they can read it and they'll learn about our college's process. Yeah, Ricky.
Can I add to number 3? And I actually think it's very important as somebody who's on a team right now that when we include evidence, that we also include an example of how the evidence it either relates or is used.
Yeah.
And I think that is as important, if not more important, than actually having the evidence. Because you can just say, oh, we have a college council. Here's the link to the evidence with the meeting notes and the agenda. But you fail to give an example of how college council fits into whatever standard. So you have the evidence of the meeting notes, but then you can give an actual example. I think I repeated myself twice.
Yeah. And we have instructed the writing teams that's the way it will be done. The evidence is typically just explaining something. And what we want them to do is to be able to bring it to life. How does it actually work on our campus? Because it helps the reader understand what they're looking at. So yeah, we're definitely going to make sure. But yeah, if that happens and you don't quite understand, like, does it make sense? Please let us know. And then can you pull up oh yeah, here. So these are the 4 standards. I've already pre-assigned them. They're not all covered. Everybody here has at least 4 to 5 that they would read and answer the questions for. And we really have, I think, the portion of this meeting that we have the time left here and next meeting to be able to do that. Janelle, could you pull up? So that's what it looks like, but we have the standards assigned and we can pull them up. And I have, there's a couple of things we kind of have to pull up. If you have access to the internet, I believe Janelli will share via email the Google site link. And that actually has everything you would want to pull up from there. So if you have your computer, if you want to open that Google site up, it will have, and actually, Janelli, it's probably better to pull the website up. That would be easier.
And if you want a laptop, we brought a few extras.
Oh, my goodness.
And if you don't want to read from your computer and move screens, I have 5 copies of all the written stuff. So you can read it from an actual copy instead if you don't want to open screens and everything. And I have written prompts too, the written questions. Instead of submitting an electronic form with your responses, you can just handwrite old school on written form as well. So this is what the assigned standards are, and you're really just going to find your name. And I just took the email list names and went through. If I'm missing anyone, we can definitely add people in. But yeah, you can poke in yourself from the Google site and find which ones. They go all the way down to 4 standards. You're going to see sections that say no draft. There's just nothing written there yet. There'll be some sections that are just blocked out in blue. We're just not going to cover those ones right now because we have all the signatory groups and we'll get full coverage to read it. And as that's on there, if you have, this is really kind of just a work session now. I'm going to have instructions for you. Actually, I'll pass these down or I can walk these around. I have an instruction sheet for you that is also on the Google site, but if you want to read it here, this walks you through essentially the same thing I just went over with the prompt questions.
Oh, yes. That is a tricky password. No, see, that's simple, and then the 0.
Yes, that comes from Ross. So could you want to?
I'm gonna see if I have enough battery left.
Okay, Sean did bring some power strips, so there's one right over the other side of the table.
Oh, very good.
And this side of the room has outlets on the wall.
Yeah, thank you. I gotta see how much. Yeah, I think I need power. It's probably running low.
And so, yeah, Susan and I can definitely answer any questions as you go through it. All the materials will be on that Google site. If you would like to just write your responses as you go through, I can give copies of them. I just piece of paper and lined paper. Otherwise, the Google site does have the electronic form to record your response, and you would do the same thing there. And if you found your standards, I have 5 copies of each part of the report. I want to read them, and the hard copies here. Which one? Standard 2.
So the link was.
I guess I know, I have to know.
Yes, Janelle sent that.
I'll grab it.
Steve, do you have-
Okay. Check the whole thing. You'll find it.
Standard.
Janelle, can you share that assignment sheet again? Which one is, like, so what I'm supposed to be reading?
I think you're understanding 1, 2, 2.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember what understanding.
The whole thing, so you only need to find your.
So we have 1, D through 4.
B as in boy?
Yes, 1, B through 4.
So now I'm deciding.
Yeah, well, which one did I?
Here's the guy.
Go to that page.
Here we go. Janelle, could you pull up the PowerPoint again?
Yeah.
One slide.
So here's-
For some reason, it opens up all the way over to the right. Just scroll it back to the left.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing that wasn't added on this version of the slide I shared with Janelli. When you're reading the standards, there are two sections for each standard, and they don't change, so that we have to write it that way. The first section, if you're looking at a copy of them, is evidence of meeting the standard. The second section is the analysis section. The evidence of meeting the standard section should be in the final report, the shortest of each part, where we're outlining the evidence and we briefly tie it to why it was chosen, how it supports the standard. The analysis portion, that's the portion that Ricky mentioned about how we take the evidence and then actually describe how it actually works on campus and why that now supports the standard. You may find in some of your versions that it looks like there's only one big long section, and that will get parsed out. So if you look at that, you might see that.
And one of the suggestions that we got from Dr. Catherine Webb, who is our ACCJC staff liaison, is that there may be some things that, you know, cut across multiple standards or are a little bit more complex to explain. And we can actually kind of call that out and put it in a box and present it as a mini case study of how, like, you know, illustrating how a process works or how a change was applied or whatever example would show and demonstrate how we're meeting the standard. So if you have a suggestion for something like that, that, you know, we could expand on, or just information on something that could potentially be one of those mini case studies. You know, we wouldn't be able to put one in every single section or be over the page one again. But, you know, definitely we're looking to have, you know, 4 to 6 of them throughout the report. So if you have an idea in reading the standard that you're assigned of something that would work, then please go ahead and just jot that down on the response. And if you have a contact name or department, that's even better.
So I'm noticing when I'm reading standard 1A, there's still a lot of text in here related to the how they do it. Am I looking at the right?
Yeah, ACCJC gave us a template, so those, there are sections in there that, you know, we have not gone through and deleted all of the flags in the template or where it says insert response and that kind of thing, but the standard, the text of the standard will remain in the report, and then it will be followed by the evidence section, the analysis section, and then the list of evidence. Then, same for
Now I can see.
back to that comment that you made earlier with you about the text being there for the standard. When I was on a review, that was also evident on the answer. But the standard language was still there and not taking it out. And actually, at first, it was a little irritating to me as a reviewer, but then what I realized later was, what am I reading again? So it helped me to be able to go back. I'm just putting that.
Is that
It gets
the
meshed.
reviewers are instructed that they're working from the standards,
Yeah.
so having that there as a reference is helpful as you're writing, as you're reading it, as you're looking at it to see whether the content seems to be complete, because the standard is the basis for the evaluation. And, we want to help the reviewers understand. Yes, the report should be grounded in fact, it shouldn't be opinion. But we need to offer enough explanation so that they understand how it works here. And I have seen as a reviewer colleges that are very minimalist and have, just very succinct statements. And the reviewers are trying to connect the dots and understand, how something moves through the governance process, or how program review actually works and what factors are actually considered. And the more you can do to help tell that, and it's fine to take a narrative sort of approach. You want it to make sense. So if this is the story of San Diego City College and how we do what we do, why we do what we do. So yes, it has to be factual, but that doesn't mean it can't be at least somewhat engaging and compelling.
This is very interesting, the way this was written.
Yeah, for each section. Answer these questions, whether you want to do it on the electronic form.
This is the Google form, so you don't have to say. Yeah. This is what happens to them. In the original format that is going to be submitted in, the evidence section is just a series of links. Right, in the draft, this is set up as bullets. Right?
Yeah.
So there's no narrative, that's the section where there isn't any narrative.
And we told people to, in this first draft, really focus on gathering the content and not necessarily about trying to write out sentences and that kind of thing. And then we'll have an editor go through the whole thing once it's all settled too.
Okay.
Have a comment, I just want to see if this is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's just. It's accurate to what it's already. Yeah.
We have our next meeting.
We have to find a spot.
We can stay. That's what I was planning to, maybe we'll put it
Yeah, who does? Then.
up. I'll just tell Janelle not to shut it down.
And I sent you, you.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
There is one form for the entire standard. So if I'm on A1 form, there's just one. field.
1A1.
That's what I thought.
1A1,
So then I just open up another electronic.
Yeah, after you submit it, then
Yeah, because that seems to.
I just need, it's not a vote. I just need. Because he's done. Oh, right. We could ask him.
Yes. So it looks like we're gonna have some homework to do here. Was a little probably ambitious, but I understand you all are coming back in December. What I would ask Janelle to do is send out a reminder again on Thursday about this. And let's work, this is important, folks. I can't stress enough the importance of this. And it's also important if you did work on this section that you get to read and provide feedback. And so Janelli will send back out these links again. We do have 2 other agenda items, one of which is an action item. And so I am going to give the floor to Tilly, but before I do that, I want to just publicly thank Marco and Susan and all those wonderful faculty members and classified professionals and managers and supervisors who are helping. And I know that there was a push to get more faculty involved, and it sounds like we did. So I want to thank everyone involved with that process. This is also a way to brag about what is going on at our college in a way that an outsider would otherwise know. And I am going to turn it over to Tilly to move to the matter of econ, and then I'll use whatever time is left. And I would ask everyone to just give us about maybe 5 more minutes over the time. But Tilly, the floor is yours. And there is a memo in your packet that speaks to what Tilly is going to be talking about.
Thank you, Ricky. So if you look in your packet, you'll find 2 documents, the last 2 documents of the packet. So I'm coming here to, it is an action item. We're looking to, we talked, I think, last month about hiring. We're always talking about hiring here. We have an opportunity, a faculty member is retiring in January, so that puts us moving forward for a position to come up and I'm going to look at the last page on your packet, which should have green and yellow on it. This is the faculty hiring prioritization list, the most up to date that I can try to get together. And all the ones in green, all the positions in green.
Did you say all the positions in green?
All 18 positions in green are either hired or in the process of being hired. And I think that was real important to say.
And that also doesn't include
Not at all. These are faculty only positions.
instructional faculty.
Not instructional.
Right, because as you include counselors and
Right.
mental health counselors, that number is
Classified
pushing
above.
30 or so faculty.
Correct. Yes, yes, absolutely. So looking next on the list, number 6 highlighted in yellow, there's a librarian faculty that we're kind of waiting on. But we can't hire a librarian faculty, and I actually met with the librarians today. They understand that that's considered a non-instructional position, and it puts us on that 50% low side that we're already very much teetering on there. And that we really have to wait for one of those positions to come forward. So looking at the next position on here would be number 17, that is an instructional position. It's a life science 2, the major's biology. But we just recently hired a biology faculty recently. So, and the sheet before, there's a memo that I'm veering off the list. And when there's a veer off the list, we go back and visit with the chairs and the deans, et cetera. I've already done that. I met with the instructional cabinet yesterday. Also met with academic senate the Thursday, 2 Thursdays before, Ricky did on my behalf. And the recommendation I'm making is I do have a faculty instructional line available, but I'm making a recommendation for economics faculty. Economics faculty is nowhere on this list. They're not on the list at all. I know you're looking at me, why aren't they on the list? When this list was created, the department was filled with faculty. And then they all retired in spring. And so they didn't anticipate to get more faculty because they were filled with what they needed. So economics is not on the list anywhere. That's a big veer off the list. I'm requesting that we place that. Economics is an area that is a high productivity area, has classes that are filled constantly. We really struggle if we don't have the faculty member. So my recommendation is that we hire an economics faculty member as soon as possible, and this is part of the rotation. I went over to yesterday instructional cabinet. I didn't get any pushback of any kind. from the chairs. They understood. I've also been talking about this since April, because in April, I already knew that the faculty were retiring and said, this is what I will be bringing forward. So they understood. Erin McConnell, who's also faculty in biology, was very much on board and agreed. So I just wanted to bring that here. I am looking to make sure that we can move forward to veer off the list and trying to be as transparent as possible, because there is nowhere that you're gonna find them here. People may come back and say, why would you hire somebody not even on the recommended list from faculty? But we very much so have a need. I think that's about it. I don't need to go on much further.
Yeah, and I would echo, just for the record, if I understand you correct, that you followed the process and went to the instructional chairs. And I believe I heard you say that there were no concerns about moving in this direction. And also for the public record and transparency, this list developed by the faculty, which we fully support, is static, right? So it's at a point in time, and people are retiring weekly, right? And so it wouldn't have even been a thought at the time to present econ or discuss econ, because at the time there were no retirements in econ. And the other thing I would ask is that econ is a fairly large generating FTS generating course. And so that means students want to take econ as a general ed, a lot of people take it. And so for all those reasons, just added a couple additional things for the record. Do we have a formal motion for approval? First by Masa, is there a second?
I'll second. This is Susan.
Second by Susan. Any further discussion? I know we are missing 2 people, but I assume we still have quorum, and I'm actually certain that we do. All in favor indicate. So any further discussion? I want to also thank Tilly and remind us that we are hiring close to 30 faculty members. I think the number is closer to somewhere between 25 and 30. And we typically take it very serious when we have to go off of this list. You can see the majority of the positions are on the list. And so it is something very serious that we don't take for granted when we have to go off the list. We normally like to have a good reason. One example is the Native American Studies professor who was not on the list. It would not have been on the list. We had 107, 108 years to get that right. It is the right thing to do for legacy and the fact that our campus literally sits on Kootenai land. This is different but similar in the fact that we went off of the list. We take it very serious. We had discussions with Academic Senate, which we typically meet on Thursdays, and ran this through the process. And I'm saying that all to say that there are usually no surprises when this happens. There are discussions that take place. And there have been other cases where cosmetology has afforded us the opportunity. And so they're very lively discussions. When again, acknowledge Tilly as our Vice President of Instruction, her leadership in this. Bring this to a matter to the vote. All those in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone in opposition, anyone like to abstain? I will note for the record, but unfortunately, our 2 faculty leaders are not with us, but I trust, as I do all the time, that Tilly has run this by them. Certainly, we've discussed it with them.
And they were both present yesterday.
Great. Motion carries. Last but not least, are my president's goals. I'd like to, I would like Janelli to bring the document up, and I will pass it out. Hopefully it's nothing new to you all. These are the goals overarching that I'm being evaluated on. There are more details as well. I shared this with the student government the other day, and would like to just say it is my honor and privilege to be the president of this wonderful college. And I hope to be able to continue to share the City College love with everyone, beginning with that you belong here. You saw in the video that this is aspiration. We absolutely have some areas of work. So hold us accountable here if you don't feel love, if you don't see love, if you don't hear love, if you don't hear and believe that you belong here. Number 2, we continue to want to increase student success, transfer completion. 3, is enrollment management, couched in the areas that we want to work in. And Tilly and I, Marciano Caesar, now meet weekly with Genevieve, Clarissa, and outreach to strategize these efforts. 4 is that we have nearly 60 people that are new. So professional development, learning, what we like to say is on the job learning, which means that this is a safe environment that some people are gonna make some mistakes. How do I know? I've made some mistakes as a president. But it's been so welcoming, so much so the feeling of belonging that you know, if you're going to make a mistake, you want to do so amongst your family and your loved ones. And so we continue to support professional development. Robbie eventually will be coming forward once we announce the professional development coordinator. I've asked Robbie to work with Tilly and John Parker to get all of our training in one catalog. Now, certainly there was already a listing for Flex, and thank you to Robbie and his team, Don Long and the PDAC committee for that document, but I'm looking for a catalog, which means that if business services is having trainings, which we know they are, again, thank you, Roxanne, PeopleSoft, then those would be listed as well, whether it's Flex or not. We know Sean Ryan is working on professional development for Classified Professionals Week. Like, we want to be able to have a catalog at the beginning of the semester that lists across segments. Because while Robbie and his team have primary responsibility over professional development, we know that it's going on across the campus. And so we want to be able to capture those things. I know there's a meeting, I believe, taking place tomorrow that'll go over examples of what a catalog can look like. And then lastly, we hope to be announcing in the coming weeks our new director of our foundation and additional staffing in our foundation. My goal before I leave this college is I would love for us to be able to raise $2 million in a year. We're averaging somewhere around $500,600,000 with no staff in the foundation. What could we be giving, raising and giving out to our wonderful deserving students if we actually had employees in the foundation? And so that's number 5. Any questions about this document? Please share it with your colleagues if they want to know what is the president working on, what areas is he focusing in on this document, both the vision on one side and the goals on the other. You may say they look the same. Well, that's called alignment in my world. We're trying to align those things and then align them to the educational plan and other documents that, as we went through the exercise moments ago about accreditation, there should be alignment. And then Caesar and his team is making sure that these documents, our mission and other things get positioned in key areas of the campus. And with that said, folks, it is always good to see you all. Be safe out there. San Diegans don't know how to drive in this wet stuff, so please take your time.
Amen.
And we will see you all in 2 weeks, or actually, I think the next council is going to be in 3 weeks because of the holiday break. And so since we won't see you between now and then, I bid everyone safe travels to wherever you may be going, whether you be staying at home or just not working that week. Have a very restful, much deserved break. On that note, that will conclude our meeting unless anybody has any announcements for the order.